My name is Takunda Kitlu Dasendi, is my profile is showing there. I think I'll be taking you for project time, project scope, and time management for this course, for this module that we are looking at today. So today we're not going to do a lot of stuff. I'm just going to talk about just the introduction part, and we'll talk about the things that we are going to be expecting in our module as we go through it. All right. So, okay, let me share with you the slide that I have here. All right. So it's introduction. It's introduction to project scope and time management. But we already know, or we have, I believe by now, everybody has checked to see the module that you guys will be working on. And this module of ours comprises of units. I think there are 10 units that we will look at in this module. There are 10 units that we are going to look at in this module. The first one is the introductory part, where we are going to look at what the project scope is. Okay. We also look at what maybe time management is when it comes to projects. And from there, we are going to look at the second unit, which is going to be scope statement. All right, that is unit 2 from our module. So from the scope statement, we'll just look at things that comprises of scope. We're going to look at the elements that comprises of scope. We're going to look at, say, maybe scope planning, scope definitions, and things alike. We're going to look also at benefits of having scope statements in your project. All right. Then we are going to look at unit 3 that talks about a work breakdown structure. So a work breakdown structure is just a tool that we use maybe to subdivide, right, work packages or work activities into smaller, more manageable activities that we'll be working with. So we're going to look at that again when we do our unit 3. And then on unit 4, we'll look at the statement of works. The statement of works, okay? On the statement of works, we'll just look at the examples of how to, say, create or develop statement of works and things alike, all right? And on unit 5, we're going to be looking at project planning. We'll look at project planning. Under there, we'll maybe look at when you are planning, what are the requirements that you need? So you look at requirements analysis that you need during project planning. We'll look at maybe how to address different aspects of planning, all right? And from there, we'll look at unit 6, which is the scope management plans, the scope management plans, all right? So there we'll look at scope planning. Mainly we'll look at scope planning and what it entails. And then from there, we'll look at unit 7. In unit 7, it talks about scope verification techniques. Unit 7, it talks about scope verification techniques. So there we'll just maybe describe the different types of scope verification techniques that are there. Okay, we'll also maybe describe how we can look at scope, how we can verify scope in terms of project life cycles and things alike. And then we'll look at Gantt charts, is our unit number 9. And on Gantt charts, we'll look at, say, the advantages and disadvantages of Gantt charts, what a Gantt chart is, the concept that is behind a Gantt chart, right? We look at maybe also the different variations of Gantt charts that are there. All right. And then on unit 10, we look at project network diagrams. So on project network diagrams, we look at the nomenclature of project network diagrams, where we look at what just be defining what is an activity, what is maybe a best activity, what is a merge, and things alike. Those are just nomenclatures that you find on what? On project network diagrams. And then we also look at, say, maybe the 2 approaches that we use to draw up network diagrams, and things alike. So with that, we know we'll be done with our module. So from the way that I was looking at this module, it's not even, it's not a difficult module, and the things are not even long. So that if we want, we can do them, say maybe 2 or 3 units in a session. We can do 2 or 3 units in a section because they are not even long, and they are straightforward and precise to the point. So we are not going to take long. Maybe we'll take long when we start looking at Gantt charts and how to maybe draw Gantt charts and things alike. Maybe that's where we are going to be taking a bit of some time, but all of these things, it's going to be easy as we go through our modules. So I think, in a nutshell, that's what we're going to be looking at. So today, I don't want to. It's just It's just an introductory part. As I've talked here, we are going to be using maybe the methodology. All right, the learning methodology that I'm going to be using with you guys is we will do maybe 2 to 3 units, say this week, and the next week we try to find out question papers that is got or that has got information to do with those units that we would have attempted. So that's how we will do it. We are not going to just go through everything like all the units until we are done. We'll do 2 to 3 units, then we look at question papers, and then we try and answer those typical questions that we would have covered on those units. So that's how we are going to do it. And afterwards, I think when it's time for KCQs and things alike, we'll do them in class. We'll come up with the answers for the KCQ, then we'll discuss them as you'll be answering them. And also, after we are done, we do maybe we'll do also some past exam question papers before you guys write your OSAS. So that's how we are going to be doing on this module. So today we are not going to look at much. We're simply going to look at the introductory part because it's just introduction here. We're going to be looking at this introductory part, and we are going to look at what scope is, maybe time is, and then for the day we'll be done. We're not going to take much of the time. So the introductory part, the way that I prepare these modules, I don't prepare them from information that I just get anyway. I prepare them from the information that are in our guidelines, because the examination, whatever is going to be asked, is going to be asked premised on what you would have covered on your study guide modules. So I prepare this using the study guide module. I follow whatever is there in the study guide module, then I come up with those things so that we explain them and understand them better with each other. Right. So the introduction part here, it was just talking about a project. We all know what projects are. I believe so. We all know what projects are, and the definition of a project, we are saying just a project is maybe an endeavor. Okay, a project is just an endeavor which consumes materials, or that uses materials, that uses money, that uses time, that uses effort, right, to come up with a unique product or service, okay, that exceeds the expectations of stakeholders or customers. So that's what a project is in a nutshell. All right, that's what a project is in a nutshell. And then we look at project management. Okay, so project management comprises of organizing, right, leading, right, managing, right, controlling of resources to come up with a unique product that also exceeds or meets the customer's expectation. That's what our project management is. And when we talk about project management, there are different knowledge areas that you need to know. Okay, when you're performing a project, you need to know different knowledge areas that are key to projects, and these knowledge areas comprises of the integration management, which is project integration management, right? Risk management. So in every project that you do, you are going to face risk, so you need to have a knowledge area, or you need to understand what risk management entails. So it's another knowledge area. In every project that you're going to be doing, there's going to be communication, right? You are going to be communicating with different team members. There's going to be communication concerning everything that the project is going to go through, all right? There's going to be communication maybe for the materials that are going to be bought for procurement and things alike. So communication management becomes again a knowledge key area that you need to know. There is what is called human resource management, okay, quality management, cost management, procurement management, project stakeholder management. So when you talk about project stakeholder management, we are saying stakeholders are key to projects, okay, because they've got a vested interest in everything that is happening in a project. So we are saying stakeholders are very much key to our project. Stakeholders are key to our project. All right. Okay, so I'm just fixing that thing up. It's fine. All right. So that was just the introduction. The introduction was not saying a lot of things, or just maybe giving you a summary of what a project is, or maybe just jogging your memory of where we are coming from. But for this one, we are going to be looking at the two knowledge areas, which is our scope management, project scope management, and our project time management. All right. So for the introductory part there, it was written that a project is any endeavor or activity that consumes time, money, human effort, and technology with limits in terms of scope. So I've explained that one. All right. Project management is organized by the Project Management Institute, comprises of 10 knowledge areas, that the ones that I was saying that you need to know them, all right, because they are the one that makes you either a good project manager or one that is going to fail in their project. So they are very key because they help in what? In succeeding or in successfully completing your project. These are 10 knowledge areas that are there. So I think with that one, we've talked of just the introductory part. Then we look at project scope management. We look at project scope management. And the question comes here that what is scope? Right? When you hear the word scope, what do you think of? So I would like you to take some time now and maybe just think of a circle, right? Think of a circle, and that circle is your project. Think of your circle as your project. Everything that is inside that circle, right, is called in scope. All right, we call it in scope. Everything that is inside that circle. What does that mean? We are saying that scope is every work activities that you do to come up with a desired uh, product or service at the end of your project. Correct. So, in a nutshell, you can maybe look at scope and replace it with work. Whenever you hear the word scope, just know that you are talking about work. So we are simply saying that the outcomes that you expect, right, a given project to give you, or the deliverables that you expect a certain given project to give you, plus the work that you do, right, to achieve those deliverables is what we call scope. So, in a nutshell, we are simply saying that scope is all the work activities or all the work components that you do to produce your desired results or your desired products or your desired services at the end of the day. So that's what scope is all about. Okay, and maybe when you talk about time management, we are simply looking at maybe the duration. Okay, the duration that we take to complete our project in a timely manner. All right. So the duration or the length of period that you take to complete a project is what time is. All right. So let's look there. Project scope management. This involves all the processes that are required to ensure that the project incorporates all the work required and only the work required to complete it successfully. So, firstly, I talked about what scope is. Now, when we're talking about scope management, we are now looking at the processes now that you need, or the processes that are required to make sure that all that work that we were talking about is included in your project, right? So that's practically project scope management involves working with stakeholders to define, gain written agreement on, and manage all work required for project success. Right. So when you talk about scope, we said scope is the work that we need, or the work that is required to complete a project. How do you come about this work? You need to sit down with the relevant people that are involved in your project, right? And then you discuss, or you come to a consensus on the work that you need to do. So by so doing, you are defining the scope with your stakeholders, right? After you have defined the scope, what do? You document them. So on documenting them, you write on what you have agreed on to do on your project. And lastly, you manage that scope. What do? You are now making sure that the things that you have agreed upon are adhered to during the project execution phase or project implementation phase. So you are now managing scope. All right. So when you manage scope, there are things that maybe stakeholders might want to bring on in the project. If stakeholders bring on something that you did not agree on first, or something that you did not agree on initially, that becomes what is called scope creep, because it's now additional work that you are putting on the project, or additional work that they want you to incorporate in the project, which you did not agree upon in the first place. And most of the time, that additional work will not be accompanied with, maybe say, the additional budget for them to be done. So that becomes scope creep. So here I'm just now explaining what scope creep is. Okay, so scope creep, as I have said before, when I said, if you draw a circle, inside this is what we call in scope. These are the things that you are going to include in your project. Outside of your scope, outside of your circle, sorry, outside of your circle is what we call out of scope. So if stakeholders come now and get that circle of yours, and they try to increase, right, its diameter, they are not trying to expand that circle. What are they doing? They are adding what additional work and things alike. So they are now increasing your project. What happens at the end of the day? It means that those things that are outside of scope are going to be included as your what? As your circle increases. What does that mean? You have increased work, right, on your project, and it means that work becomes scope creep, because it's additional work that you are increasing that was not agreed upon right at the beginning. So that's what scope creep entails. So I have just told you what scope creep is here. And then for scope management process, for this scope management process, there are processes that are followed, right? Whenever you're managing scope management, there are processes that you follow. The first process is what is called plan scope management. All right, plan scope management, whereby you plan what the things that you are going to include in your project, and the things that you are not going to include in your project, right? Then collect requirements. On collect requirements, this is whereby you sit down with stakeholders and you hear, because stakeholders, they are different people, right? And all these different people, they've got different expectations in a project, right? So what do we do on collect requirements? You sit down with them, and then you collect whatever they need, or whatever that they are expecting the project to give you. That's what collect requirements is a process of project scope management. Okay. Then you look at define scope. So this process, you'll be what? Developing a detailed description of the project and the product that you want to execute or implement in your project, right? Then you create the work breakdown structure, right? So on that one, you just subdivide the deliverables or work packets into what? Smaller, more manageable components that you use. Then validate scope. right? There you'll be formalizing the acceptance of the completed project deliverables that you would have come up with, all right? Then on control scope is the last process. You'll be just maybe monitoring the status of your project and product scope, as well as managing any changes that might happen to the scope baseline. So when you talk about managing any changes, we are saying that, let's say those stakeholders come up with new things in your scope. They've added some other things, so you need to make sure that you manage those things so that you stay within your budget and your schedule. All right. So that's what the processes entail. That's what the project scope management processes entail. So here, let's read what is written there. Project scope management. This involves all the processes that are required to ensure that the project incorporates all the work required and only the work required to complete it successfully. All right. Practically, project scope management involves working with stakeholders to define, gain written agreement on, and manage all work required for the project success. All right. According to Beck, scope management defines the project's goals, deliverables, and work packages, as well as their starting and ending points. Avoiding scope creep and adding non-essential features without proper authorization is crucial. The scope creep is the one that I was explaining there. When I said visualize a circle, right? And outside the circle, if people start increasing that circle, it means you're going to be taking things that are outside scope. It's out of scope. You're going to be taking things that were out of scope as your scope. So you are now adding more work on your what? On the work that you had originally or initially. All right. Project scope management involves defining and regulating what a project includes and what a project excludes. Project Management Institute details the project scope management processes. So those are the scope management processes that I have just talked about earlier. All right. So that's what's there on project scope management. That's what is there on project scope management. Then we look at project time management, right? Project time management. So when you hear the word time, you are simply looking at beginning and ending of activities in a project. Okay, we're looking at the starting date and the completion date of activities that you do on a project. So, project time management, this includes calculating or estimating the time to completion, creating a schedule that makes efficient use of resources, and keeping the process on track to complete the project on time, among other things. So sometimes other people might write it as schedule management, all right? They might not write it as project time management, they might write it as project schedule management. So don't be confused with that one. They'll be mostly talking about the same thing. Because when you talk about the schedule, we are simply talking about the duration, right? Of the duration of your timely completion of your project. Okay, so time and schedule is one and the same thing. So Beck illustrates the relationship of time, cost, and quality, demonstrating how changing one can impact the others. So they are just talking about what we call the triple constraints there. Okay, the triple constraints. That thing is very key and is very important because it affects almost all the projects. It affects every project in its respect. All right. When we talk about the time, we are saying if time is affected, right, or the schedule of a project is affected, mostly the cost of the project is going to be affected and the quality of the project is also going to be affected, right? If cost is affected, say there are budget cuts that are done on a project, okay, it means that the duration or time of a project is going to be affected also, and the scope is going to be affected. For example, you say a project required 10 billion rands and it had a lot of, maybe it had 15 deliverables that needed to be done. The moment that the budget is cut down or the cost of the project is cut down by the funders from 10 billion to say 7 billion, it means that those 15 deliverables, you are going to forego some other what some other work there. You're going to forego some other scope that you would have come up initially with, because there's no budget to foot those other things. So these things, they are interconnected and they affect each other. That's what they just are saying there. So scope, organizational breakdown, structure, and understanding of environmental issues are all important considerations, right? And that one was just an example of time. The Sydney Opera House is a prime example of measuring project successes based on time, costs, and scope, right? The construction project exceeded its budget by 16 times and costed 4 times more than expected. However, the project was a great success for the Australian people while also being a huge failure in terms of project management. But no one remembers the missed aims and objectives. What are they saying? They are simply saying that the Sydney Opera House in Sydney, Australia, that state of art building that they built there, it exceeded their budget by many, many times than they were anticipating, right? But because it came out right, or it came out in a nice way, it came out in a good way, the people were happy, the populace, they were happy about it. But in terms of project management, it was deemed a failure. Why? Because when we do a project, we are saying that a project must be completed within the stipulated budget, okay, within the stipulated time frame, okay, and within the stipulated costs, all right. So, sorry, within the stipulated budget, right, within the stipulated time frame, and within the stipulated scope. I mean, I wanted to say scope, within the stipulated scope. So, but that project did not do everything that was written on its original scope. But because it was good to look at, people, they overlooked it and they said it's nice all the same. Although a lot of objectives were missed, they did not perform all of the objectives there, but the people said it was nice. But on a project management perspective, it wasn't, because number one, they missed their aims and objectives. They also missed their budget because they had a budget overrun. They used a lot of money that was not budgeted for that. And the last thing again, it took more than enough time. It took a lot of time than the one that was scheduled for that project. So, on project management perspective, that project was a failure. But on maybe social perspectives, it was something to behold. It was something good that the people enjoyed. So that's what happens there. It's just an example of where time, cost, and scope uh, did not meet the things that were required in the beginning. All right. So that's project time management there. Then you look at the tools and techniques that you can use in project time management and project scope management. So we have our knowledge areas, which is the scope management first. So the tools and techniques that can be used there, we have scope statements, we have web structures, right? We have scope verification techniques, we have scope change controls, requirements analysis. So these, all of them, I think we will look at them as we go deeper. I think when we are going maybe to the last units there, that's where these tools and techniques will come in play. That's where we'll look at them in detail. Again, under time management, you have Gantt charts. Okay, we know what Gantt charts are. Those horizontal bars that shows us the duration of activities in a project, right? Project network diagrams. We have critical path analysis. Critical path analysis, we use them to find the shortest amount of maybe time, right, that is needed to complete a project. And then you have crashing, you have fast tracking. So crashing and fast tracking are simply what you call schedule compression techniques, right? These ones, you use them to compress your time, right? When you see that your project is susceptible to delay, you can employ these techniques to make sure that your project comes back into your schedule. All right. You have also what are called schedule performance measurements. these are tools and techniques that you look at a later stage. All right. Then again in the module, they switched from the project scope management and project time management, and they had a subtopic or a subheading that was talking about benefits of using a project management approach. To my surprise, I was surprised, but anyway, we look at it also. So here we are simply saying that a planning and control system enables for some of the following benefits, which we will discuss in detail as we progress through the module. All right. So when we use a project management approach, okay, we are using a plan to tackle our project. All right. So it's very key and it's very important to do your project with a robust, well prepared plan. Why? Because it helps you to eradicate a lot of risks that comes up with projects, and it helps you to eradicate a lot of uncertainties that come up with projects. As we all know that all projects, they are uncertain, they are characterized by uncertainty, right? They are characterized by delays, right? They are characterized by risks. So by using a project management plan or a project management approach, you curb all those kind of things, and you help your issue to you help your issue or you help your project to be completed successfully. All right. So um all right, it's fine. We the slides, you get them. It's fine. You get the slides. All right. So when you talk about a project plan, it is a simple blueprint, right? It is a simple blueprint, or maybe we say a roadmap, right? That shows you the goals, that shows you the aims, that shows you the targets of your project and how you are going to what to reach those targets. That's what a project plan is. So here we are simply saying benefits of having a project plan, or benefits of say using a project management plan. All right, someone is writing some things there. Okay. All right. Benefits of using a project management plan. So when you have this a project management plan, or when you use a project management approach, you have a system that helps you in conducting your project. So we are saying that a planning and control system enables for some of the following benefits, which we will discuss in detail as we progress through the module. A single point of responsibility. All right. So if you use a project management approach, you know that the project manager is going to be responsible for that project. So that's a single point of responsibility that you have. All right. Estimating a critical path to determine duration. Fast tracking, which brings a new product to the market quickly before competitors. So as I have said earlier, that there's fast tracking, there's what is called crashing, and fast tracking helps us to what to cut down on any delays, or to reduce the amount of time that a project requires to be completed. You have Gantt charts that communicates the logistics. You have reporting interfaces that are structured around a web-driven structure. You have a project management plan to document and coordinate these principles and include a baseline for progress measurement. All right. So these are the benefits of using a project management approach. Then, in summary, we are saying that managing the project scope is primarily concerned with defining and controlling what is or what is not included in the project. So, as I have said, that when we project scope is everything, every work that is included in your project, and I gave you an example that the every deliverable or outputs plus the work that you do constitutes what is called scope. Okay, so scope, project scope is just concerned with everything that is included in the project, right? Project management involves planning, monitoring, and controlling every aspect of the project, as well as motivating all stakeholders to meet deadlines, cost, quality, and performance objectives. It involves three major constraints, which is time, cost, and scope. So these constraints are the one that I just explained when I was saying it's a triangle. The moment that you touch your scope, it means that you are going to affect the cost and the time of your what? Of your project. So understanding these constraints will lead to project success. As I have said, the triple constraints are key to what? To projects. Each and every project must be able to manage these constraints, because if you fail to do so, you will be in trouble. You will miss deadlines. You will go over budget. You will do a lot of things that will derail your project, and we don't want that. So, I think for this one, we are done with the introductory part of project scope management and time management. That is the introductory part that I had for you there. So, I think going forward, we'll be looking more into those other issues. And as I have said, we'll maybe be covering maybe two, let's say two to what? Two to a unit per each class that you do. And afterwards, we do some revision and we go back again. We continue until we are done. So I think that's all that I had for you guys on this one. That's all that I had for you guys on this one. Are there any questions? So me, I like to talk with people most of the time, and I like people that uh, are very free, that are very open to say whatever they think. Because sometimes I might have missed some things there. If maybe you came across something, feel free to add on what we would have talked about. Feel free to ask on anything that you think you would not have understood. But that's how I do. So I want you guys to feel free. Take me as one of your colleagues there, so that you feel free to ask anything. So from whatever we've been talking about, are there any questions on the things that we've talked about? All right. All right. Thank you, non-paper. Thank you. Are there anything, or it's straightforward? Even if you want to contribute, you can contribute, even just a comment. It's fine. I just want you guys to say something, so that your voice box does not become infested with whatever that may be there. All right. All right. Others, others. Or you can just say anything that you got from this introduction, or maybe you just tell us that I've seen that there is what is called maybe crashing. There is a tool or a technique that is used in time management called crashing. It's fine. I just want us to feel free, guys. Just want us to feel free. Or if you don't have anything to say, you just type in the chat so that we know. All right. Okay, going to go through the OSA questions with time. What do you exactly mean by that? Can you rephrase that question? Okay, of course. Don't worry. The OSA are very far. Um, we'll do a lot, and we'll look at question papers before we write. So don't worry about that. We'll be fine. All right, guys. So let me not waste much of your time. Thanks very much for your time and consideration. Let's meet next week where we look at Unit 2 and Unit 3. All right, let's meet next week. We'll be looking at Unit 2 and Unit 3. So thank you very much. Enjoy the rest of your evening.
Thank you so much.
All right. Yeah, James will share with you the slides, and he will share also with you the this video. So don't worry, you are going to get it. All right. Thank you very much, Ncube. Okay, you did very well. Thank you very much. Thanks, guys. Thanks, guys. Okay, yeah.